Welcome to Honest Whispers Review. On this video I'll be reviewing Street Fighter V Cammy 1/4 scale Ultra Collectible Statue Player 2 Pink exclusive. Number 83 out of 125. I just received this around a month ago. First time opening, inspecting, and reviewing today. And I'm going to go over 6 different categories to review this. I did not go back and review the scores that I gave on the white Cammy. So this way I want to kind of review this and judge this on its own merits. And first category is design, which basically covers the pose, the concept, and the look. And this one, as you can see straight off the bat, very dynamic pose. Definitely like it a lot. It is the same as the white or the green Cammy. She's doing a kick. You could see how her braids are straight up in the air. Well, nicely designed on 2 points. It adds realism to the physics as it makes the effects of her going downwards into the kick. And also it keeps it out of harm's way because it is quite fragile. And after seeing 4 of these statues, 1 returned, or actually 2 returned. One was a white one returned, 1 green one returned, and then the white one that was replaced, and this one itself. So I've seen like 3 braids that were broken out of all 4. So quite fragile, but still, as it is, when it's on the statue like this, definitely sturdy, not in harm's way. Also, a nice design point I wanted to add on this one is that the base is very heavy. So even though she's in pretty much in a 45-degree angle, very top heavy, especially on the right side, and also she's only held by this one double peg, a pole and a block that is pretty much a peg holding the statue up. But due to its heavy weight on the base, it acts as a counterweight, or it basically counterbalances her angled position. So basically very nicely designed because she's very sturdy, and even though I'm rotating her like this, you can see that she doesn't wobble much. I'm not worried about her tipping over. So definitely well thought out on the overall design as itself, and the look itself too, because the base itself overall does look really nice, especially with her smashing down on M. Bison's Shadowloo symbol, or in Japanese known as Vega, smashing Vega's Shadowloo symbol down. And you could see some translucent plastic on it. Definitely the same kind of special effects you would see in the video game. So it looks like she's doing one of her special moves. I don't know the name of the kick, but it reminds me of the kick where she kind of jumps in and jumps in the air, kind of loops in the air, and then comes down at her opponent. So overall, the look, design, very unique. You don't really see this type of look or pose. They did execute it well done, as I mentioned, due to counterweight balancing and everything, and making sure that the peg is is a nice tight fit, and also just sturdy overall. So definitely, even the pose itself, just something you can't get really sick of, and definitely for me something I would label as a showstopper, which is something in your collection where visitors will come see your collection, and this will be one of the statues where they would stop and take an extra moment to look and examine and even admire. So design, I give it a perfect 10 out of 10. Next category is sculpting. Basically covers details, execution, and the quality of the sculpting, or I should rather say the quality of the molding. And for this one, overall consistency and quality, now that I've seen 4, you see the same imperfections, and there are a few inconsistent imperfections. So something that you would only see on this statue, or I haven't seen in other statues. So first off, the braids, well, you know, the details and stuff, well executed, well designed. They did even give you a lithograph of the art that this basically is designed. It's possible the art came after, but I would figure either way. The sculpting itself, when you look at the details of the fingers, the hands, the gloves, all very nicely proportioned, consistent, and you see so many nice details on the wrinkles, like off the palm of her hands, or even in between her gloves, or on her fingers where it's folded. So just everywhere around, muscle definition, face, nicely sculpted, especially the one with the closed mouth. It's everything from nose, cheeks, everything, whether if it's from the side, she looks good. So I would say she's definitely on the prettier side than the uglier side. It definitely does look like Cammy as well. Nice details from collarbone, neck, her breasts, perfectly proportioned and sculpted. Costume, side of her costume is, you could tell it's like a different fabric. They even sculpted every little hexagon onto it. Her chest harnessed, basically lots of details, and it does look realistic, especially when you look close up at certain buckles, due to its nice, you know, defined lines, very consistent. But there are certain areas in the buckle, like right here at the end of this strap, like line is not as defined, and it's so like kind of rounded out, so it almost makes it look like part of that belt's been melted. I like how the rib cage and the abs nicely sculpted. I particularly don't like how her belly button is sculpted like that, and it goes so deep even though she's wearing a leotard. So that's kind of weird. It makes it more look like she's wearing latex paint. But still, doesn't really affect me too much. I think overall it still looks fine and looks good. Everything else, let's see, her butt is pretty much like perfect proportion and very nicely sculpted. Unfortunately, due to certain molding issues, you don't get the nice perfect round curves everywhere. So you'll see a lot of indentations, especially where the costume is. Right here particularly, I see it on every statue. There is like a dimple line on the upper hip, and also right here on her inner left buttocks or butt cheeks. Her right butt cheek, this one in particular has some little indented little lines, or so it's just kind of like when you look at it in certain angles, kind of gives it a little bit of a cellulite effect. Not that much. When you start looking from far away, looks pretty good. Overall, nicely smooth. But when you start looking up close, you could start seeing those indented, either indented spots or lines. So it would just be like a little dimple, like a little hole. You can see right there, pretty much all over her right butt cheek. Other than that, pretty good quality, good muscle definitions on the legs, as well as I mentioned, on the arms. And then the boots, the laces, top laces, all nice defined lines and everything. But then this lower lace right here on the top part, kind of like her chest harness. There's certain lines where it's just not as defined, so it looks like the shoelace is part of the tongue. So, or it's like melted on top of it. Otherwise, and it's something you have to look close once again. Bottom of her feet, her soles, very nicely detailed. Always like that. And then of course her harness, her little holster on her thigh. Just as I mentioned, like when you look at certain buckles and areas like that, the lines are so sharp and very well defined that just makes it look realistic. So again, not many other issues on the figure. I did notice there is like an indented line here on her elbow. Might have missed it on the other statues, so this is kind of new to me. Good chance other statues may have that as well. So it's like a little chip's been taken off. Top of the base, where all the broken pieces and everything, very nicely done. And also the texture of the rock or the stones, very realistically done as well. And you can see at the point of impact, the closer it is, you see they even sculpted little pieces of rock on top of the bigger rocks. So that's usually don't see that kind of details. So well thought through. Unfortunately, due to the size of the base and everything, I always see a consistent that number of dimples or indented, just like certain areas on the body, on either the top edge ring or the bottom edge ring. So you could see how as I go around, there's certain areas it's like dented in. And even here, if you look even closer, not all around the edge is all smooth, and even on top of the base itself, you could see a lot of like dimples and holes. Now this one, not all of them had it, but this one, it does have a bit of a bad, how do you say, a bad mold, because it's not like it's been cracked or chipped afterwards, but due to its deep, it's a very deep line, so it did crack the paint kind of, especially right here on that edge. Or if not, it definitely makes it look like it has cracked paint. And this is the second one I've seen that's like this. The first one I've seen was on a white Cammy, which I ended up returning. The replaced white Cammy didn't have it, and then of course the misordered green one didn't have this. This one, unfortunately, it's not as bad to really want me to exchange and go through all that hassle. I would be fine with some compensation. Otherwise, when you look at other parts of the base, you can see a lot of areas that's been kind of, it looks like it's been dented in or chewed out. And this one, it's not consistent with the other ones. So this is unique on its own, and this one has some indented lines on the right wing, you could see right there. So, and even this one, the top edge has a bit of a like a slight chip. And when you see the left wing, it's more smooth. You could see some dimples here and there, but then even the top edge, that's just the reflection and it's not chipped. So other than that, I mean, I would just literally assume and blame the size and weight of the base. It's probably, especially because when they handle it before it completely dries and hardens, good chance whatever they touched, it probably kind of slightly dented and was too hard for them to kind of reshape it back before it dried up. So I could see that as the consistency. Other than that, the inconsistent one, in other words, the ones that's like I see it on certain statues but not on the others, and that's probably just because while handling it, the specific person that was handling it might have accidentally touched it or something in the wrong place. So sculpting, I mean, overall, when you look at it, very good. But I mean, there's just so many little imperfections here and there when you start looking up close, especially in the base area. So even though I want to give it like a high 9, you know, like a high score, like a 9, I just can't see myself doing that. So therefore, I give the sculpting score on this pink Cammy an 8 out of 10. Next category is colors, and colors basically covers the quality of the paint, accuracy of the colors, and basically the quality of the application. And as you can see, the pink definitely makes her stand out. I think the pink costume also makes it very dynamic. It is very accurate to the colors for instance, if you picked her pink costume color in the video game, this is pretty much what it looks like. So very accurate. Execution's on point. If I had to change anything, or if I could change anything, I think the red color of the red base kind of clashes with the pink, or just doesn't match or blend as well compared to, for instance, the white Cammy, where the blue base matches like the blue trims of her costume. So this one I might have gone with something different. I'm sure they tried pink themselves and maybe that just didn't work out and it might have been too pink. Whatever the case, it still looks fine. It's just something I might have done, something that might have blended better with the costume. Now the costume itself, especially when you look at the pink with the dark gray and the black trims, it just makes the pink stand out, highlights her costume and her body. So for instance, the black trim though, these are all matte finish, but they even added some gray tone like into certain parts of her body or costume. So it really gives it more of a realistic look to it, add some dimension to it, even though it is 3D. And even though it's matte finish, it makes her costume look more realistic and also a little bit more shinier than it is. Now, you could see some, unfortunately, when you start looking up close, you do see some lines that's kind of wiggly here and there. The black trim, whether if it's off the pink or off the hair color, both lines slightly wiggles. The gloves and everything else in the hand area, pretty much nicely done. Not many wiggled lines, all the lines are pretty much straight. And if there is a slight wiggle, like for instance here in the thumb, it's so small, it's very unnoticeable. Going down to the face, eyes on this one, pretty much straight, looks nice. Unfortunately, the one with the mouth open, I'm not going to show it, it's just redundant at this point, but it's slightly cross-eyed. So that's kind of whatever, but I do like the closed mouth face anyways, or closed mouth portrait anyways. Everything else, there are some areas where the lines do either bleed over the border or you get more wiggly lines. For instance, right here under her armpit, either the leotard that's kind of over the edge, and of course the chest harness. Back of the chest harness, there's certain areas where certain color is over the border of the other color. For instance, a pink over the black right there. And the back or the side of the butt, pretty much perfectly painted. Of course, the left leg, that's been assembled. It was actually molded separately. And other than that, the only other places that I see a lot of lines or colors running over the border would be the boot, the brown color over the sock, whether if it's in the back, the inner edge, or even right here on the right boot. So you can see a lot of brown running on top. So this is something you really have to look up close to really see. So when you see from far or even at a moderate distance, colors very much nicely done, good quality, and even the shades, as I mentioned, like the shades of gray, different tones of gray on the stone, it makes it realistic and adds to the texture. Other than that, the base, the wing area or the eagle, that's the only other area where it's kind of bleeds over the border. You can see right here on the upper edge of the left wing. While when you look at the right wing, it's so much more better. It's all nicely done, perfectly on the line and consistent. So the colors, it could have been perfect, especially something this big. Even when you look at something small, like they did a pretty good job right here, like on the logo right there on the beret. So this one could have been done a lot better. It is kind of close to perfection, but when you really start looking up close, unfortunately you do see some flaws here and there. So I give the color score 9 out of 10. Next category is packaging, and packaging is basically a 4-color box, and it is definitely a huge box. Of course, it is a 1/4 scale box, but the quality is pretty good. Now it is your standard cardboard, so it is quite thin. I would have liked something a little bit sturdier, but they still did an overall great job on the design of this box. You could see that it has gloss finish all over, so it has a nice smooth and shiny look to it. Every side of the box is different. Top says Cammy. Although the box is universal, so you get the same box whether you order a green one, a white one, or a pink one. But they did either individualize it by adding a sticker. This one, because it's the pink Cammy, they added the sticker, and also they individualized it by labeling the number, the edition number, and the edition size on the bottom, like pretty much all statues. So the first one on the front, you do see a nice close, and the box, once again, on the design, it's very product driven. So in other words, you'll see a lot of the products, the examples of the product on the box, rather than being like an artsy, like an artistic type, where it's more like name and logos and things like that, or even character driven, where it's more like the character, like a picture or art drawing of the character itself. So nice close-up of the statue on the front, and then on the back you get the similar close-up, but then it's slightly in an angle, so she's not facing you. Nice big Street Fighter logo, and it says Cammy stats, but basically it's like a little bit of her history and origin, or rather more like a character bio. The left side of the box is basically a full view of pretty much like the side angle of the statue, with her name Cammy on the bottom, and of course PCS and the collectible statue, basically what it is. So again, and in the background, consistent, it's kind of like either inside some kind of like and a building with a lot of windows. And finally, the right side of the box, which basically is a full view of the back of the statue. Same consistent Cammy Street Fighter logo collectible statue with PCS. And now when you see the background on this, it looks like it's inside of like a clock tower. So that's pretty cool. So even parts of the background is different from the different angles. So it makes it look like this statue in the picture is sort of like frozen in time, and whatever angle you look at the box, it kind of gives you the different angles of the background or setting she's in. So that's very cool design, thought through. My only thing is I would have liked the box to be maybe a little bit sturdier, and beyond that, I've seen one where, just to compare with other companies, other statues in the same scale, I've seen one where like they mix matte finish and gloss finish and things like that. So I could see room for improvement, but as is, box is nice, well designed. They didn't go cheap and use the same logo for certain sides. Every side is different. So for that, I give the packaging grade an 8 out of 10. Next category is value. Value basically covers retail cost versus quality and retail cost versus aftermarket value. And to start off with aftermarket value, unfortunately at this point it's too new to have any. It's actually not sold out yet, so it's still available from PCS. And I've even seen different retailers sell it for even cheaper than PCS. But of course with shipping added, I don't know how much it comes out to be. Right now the retail price, you can get this for $420 at PCS. I've seen other places sell it for like $380, although as I mentioned, I don't know how much the shipping will be, so good chance you'll still be paying about $420 with PCS. The $420, that's not shipping included. So either way, this is under $500 for a 1/4 scale figure statue. And right now, prices for 1/4 scale is going up. I believe the newer PCS 1/4 scale, I think the retail price is slightly higher. And also, believe it or not, Sideshow Collectibles, their newest pre-order I've seen of one of their premium format figure, which is basically a 1/4 scale figure or statue, and that's basically at $715, excluding tax and shipping. So the price retail for these quarter scale statues are just continuously going up. This one, Cammy, being the fact that she's quite popular, and also this being an exclusive one, you get a switch out portrait and everything. For $420, $450, if you add shipping and stuff, I mean, you're getting your money's worth. I'm very happy with it. I'm happy with this, even though it has its imperfections and flaws. Overall, I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the white one. So for me, like, I could see this continuously go up in value once it sells out as well, and once it's not available. And one of the couple main reasons, and that's because Cammy is one of the more popular Street Fighter characters of all time. Definitely high demand for her. And this one, as I mentioned, the limited size, I mean, it's only 125 for this exclusive version. So that's a very low number, even though she does have variants and different, like a green statue and a, white costume statue. So even when you add that, still overall very low number. So once this gets sold out, and you know, maybe like a good 5, even up to 10 years from now, I could see this jump over 200% in its retail value. And as I said, even when you're paying over 5, or I only said 450, but even if you ended up paying a little over 500, you're still getting well over the quality, because you also get 2 braids and the switch out hair, and also the little an extra bang as well. So basically you get a set of braids for each portrait. So value, I give it a perfect 10 out of 10. Final category is overall. Overall basically takes account to the 5 prior categories: design, sculpting, colors, packaging, and value. And overall, this just looking at the pose, you know, this is so dynamic, so unique. It's gonna take me like longer than your other average pose to get sick of. This one is just, I could, you know, easily display this in many different angles. And I know I have 2, one pink one, one white one. I could even, because the angle, it's so dynamic, I could probably pose one in this angle and pose one like on the other side of the shelf, or right next to it, the white one on a different angle, and it just might look like 2 different types, 2 different modes basically. So overall, everything about it, definitely high quality, not perfect, but definitely up there with everything. I give the overall score a 9 out of 10. So to recap: design, 10 out of 10. Sculpting, 8 out of 10. Colors, 9 out of 10. Packaging, 8 out of 10. Value, 10 out of 10. And overall, 9 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Until next time, try playing Street Fighter V if you can. That's definitely one of the best Street Fighters out there. And really, Cammy looks good in it too.